Hi there, and welcome to the new tutorial series for my road plugin beta. This tutorial series will cover some of the basic functionality of the plugin as well as some of the more advanced features. I'll keep expanding the series as I add more features and update any of these videos as needed. The first part of this series is going to be focused on just making our first simple road. So to start off, you have this road editor button that will open the UI for the plugin. You'll see a couple buttons here, but today we're just going to click on this Create Node button, which will create a new node for the road plugin, and we'll just place this on this flat terrain. Okay, so this node has two parts. Each of these parts represents a lane that'll be rendered, and the arrows on top show the direction of travel for the node. This version of the beta only natively supports driving on the right side of the road, but in a future update I'll have the ability to change the direction of travel. So now that we have our node here, we're going to select it, and we'll see this Extend Lane UI pop up. Each of these buttons has a different distinct purpose, but we'll focus on these two buttons at the top and bottom. In order to turn this node into a lane, we'll just click this button on the top, which duplicates the node and places it in front. We can use the Move tool to move this node out and away, and then we'll click Render, and we have our road. And we can actually keep doing this to make our road longer. This time I'll rotate it and move it over to the left a little bit. You can see there's actually two render buttons in the plugin window, Render Changed and Render All. Render Changed will only render the lanes that have updated or new lanes, while Render All will render everything. So if we click Render Changed, we'll see it only rendered this new lane right here. But if we click Render All, it all gets re-rendered. This time I'm going to extend the road backwards. Okay, so as you can see, we now have our first road. That was pretty good for a 2-lane road, but there's many cases where you want another form, such as a 4-lane road. So I'm going to click Create Node again. And before I continue, I would like to note that this functionality will be changing in the next update, and there will be a much simpler way to create 4-lane roads. This is just the way you have to do it as of the 0.3 beta. And as soon as I push that update out, I will update the tutorial. But now we'll continue. So to turn this 2-lane road into a 4-lane road, I'm going to duplicate each node by pressing Ctrl D and use the Move tool to slide it over. So once again, this is the model, but I'm going to select this node right here. Press Ctrl D to duplicate it, then slide it over. And now we have our new node here that will represent a 4-lane road. And we can actually extend this 4-lane road the same way we did the 2-lane road using this big button at the top. I'll slide it out again. And when we click Render, we'll see a 4-lane road. Now that we have a road with more than 2 lanes, I'd like to show you some of the different buttons functionality in this Extend Lane UI. So as I've shown you, the widest button covers the entirety of the node, and will just extend the whole road out. There are many cases where you'll want your road to split up into its 2 separate directions, which is what this middle row of buttons does. So clicking each of these buttons will create a new node that just represents the one direction. And we can move these out separately. And then click Render. And you'll see that we split the road up into its 2 directions. And finally, the first row of buttons represents each individual lane. So if we click all of these individually, we'll get each separate lane split up. These aren't the only shapes you can make with the Extend Lane UI, however. The way lanes get rendered together is entirely based on the way their nodes are grouped, and we can use this to our advantage to make a versatile network of roads. So as an example of this, I'll split this road up into two separate sections, one of which will be a 3-lane road and the other will just be 1 lane. There's a couple ways to do this, but I'll just show you what I usually do. So I'll click the wide button here to extend the entire lane out. Then I'll ungroup it into its separate nodes and regroup it into this one 3-lane group here. And then I'll group this lane. And there we have one node of 3 lanes and one node with just 1 lane. So I'll put this node out here, and I'll bring this 3-lane node back, click render, and it splits apart perfectly. So I've split this road up into 2 separate directions, and now I'm going to bring them together in a sort of loop. So I'm going to extend this lane one more time. So I've split this 4-lane road up into its 2 separate directions, and now I'm going to try and bring them back together to make a sort of loop. To connect these 2 nodes here, we're going to use the New Lane button. This button allows us to click a first node, and then select the second node, and it will create a new lane between them. So I'll do the same thing for this other node here, and I'll click over to this node. And to confirm that the lanes have been created, we can click this Delete Lanes button, which will actually show a breakdown of all the lanes in the road network. We'll deselect that, and then when we click Render, you can see that we've now made a loop. When using the New Lane button, make sure you click in the direction of the arrows. So in this example, this node's arrows are facing roughly towards this node, but if I click in the wrong direction, and try to render it, we'll get some weird results like this. So to fix it, I've deleted these lanes, and we'll try that again, starting on the left side and following the direction of the arrows. And just like that, we get a perfect render. So that's all I really have for part 1 of the tutorial. If you'd like to see more, there will be a link to a playlist of tutorials in the description covering each feature. I also greatly appreciate all the feedback I've been getting for my plugin, and if you'd like to leave your own feedback, suggestions, or any issue reports, there will be a link to a Discord in the description, as well as a link to the plugin. Thank you.